Hey guys, Delaney here. I am the head farmer at Ewe and Me Creamery. I milk sheep and I make dairy products. We are located in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, just south of Nashville. And I'm so glad to have you guys here. Never in a million years did I think that I was going to grow up and be a dairy farmer, let alone a sheep dairy farmer. I mean, I grew up and I didn't even know you could milk sheep. Cows, goats, sure, but sheep? What? 3 years in, and I have learned a ton. And one of the biggest things that I learned was that community plays an essential part in just even surviving those first 3 years. You cannot survive the first few years of diving into farming without some sort of community there to build you up and support you when you are at your lowest. They are your lifeline. They are the ones who build you up when you feel beaten down and just lost. They are the best source of knowledge and wisdom that you will ever find. Books are great, and there are a ton out there for farming of whatever animal you're looking for or whatever source of product that you're trying to get into. But when you get to talk to a real life farmer who's really been in the trenches and are still in the trenches, they are going to give you the best information for the current time that you will ever have. For me, books were just really hard to sit down and read. I had little kids and we just started farming and had little animals running around. And I had barely enough time to sit down and read things that I enjoyed, let alone things that were really heavy and dense. The everyday farmers out there that are down in the dirt, getting their hands dirty, that are making it work with a shoestring and a prayer, their wisdom is invaluable. Even if that farmer has only 1 year more of experience than you do, their knowledge is going to be leaps and bounds ahead of where you are now. Mostly because a year is a long time and we face a lot in a year. For the most part, it is an entire lifetime of an animal. For sheep specifically, if you're doing it for meat or even just a milking season, it's usually about 10, 11 months of lambing, of birthing, of milking, of raising out the lambs to butcher. That all lasts about 10 to 11 months. So even in a year, basically, we have already lived or experienced a whole lifetime. There is nothing, and I mean nothing, that compares to a veteran farmer or a mentor that can really help you, guide you through some of the really complicated intricacies of raising animals. So why am I on here? Why am I making videos about small dairy farming and about milking sheep specifically? Well, there's a few reasons for that. One of the reasons I am doing this is for my own personal records. Well, there's a lot that goes on the farm, and a lot of times it's in the moment stuff that you don't really think to review or to write down. And then all of a sudden you come upon the same problem next year and you're like, oh, shoot. What was that thing? I know we dealt with it, but what was the medicine we gave and what was the dose? It's one of those things where if you don't write it down or you don't have some way to log your experiences and the stuff that you learned, then it all gets sort of shoved in the back of your mind as a not important, or I'll bring it up for later purposes when you need it. And then when you come to that point, you're like, I don't remember. When the next year rolls around, you really want to know what's going on and be able to answer some of those questions. And when they're small little things, sometimes it just kind of gets shoved under the carpet and your brain just goes, well, that was a problem that was dealt with and we're done, and poof, it's gone from your mind. So I'm doing this as sort of a way to document what goes on in our farm, and also as a way to help others to kind of see where our journey is and what we do on our farm to hopefully help you guys when you're starting your dairy. And that sort of leads into reason number 2, and that is, why not share this information? We've been doing this for about 3 years, and there are things that I wish I'd known. Little things, like not the big stuff that everybody talks about when it comes to taking care of just animals in general, but like specific stuff that are specifically sheep dairy, because it is something very different than meat sheep. And even just little things on the farm, like, when you leave a hose in the water and you leave the spout up, it sucks the water back up. That's a that's a trauma for another time. But there are certain things like that I came across, and I was like, why do I not know this? Why is this not common knowledge? And so that's one of the reasons why I wanted to start doing this, is to kind of bring forth that knowledge that, like, farmers and veterans and people who've been doing this for generations or decades know this stuff, but as someone brand new to it who just hopped in not knowing anything, these are the kind of little things that I would have liked to know. And as a mom to little kids, and one who decided to buy a bunch of sheep without a lot of research behind it, I wish I had a way to kind of absorb that information that didn't come from books that were really dense that I didn't quite understand, or like audible stuff. Like for me, I spend a lot of time listening to stuff when I'm out milking, and it's really hard to read, and a lot of the sheep books don't really have audiobooks available. So I really wanted to have kind of a resource for people who are just getting into this, to be able to listen to people talking. There are podcasts, but even podcasts for me, I feel like they get a little dense. At times, a little bit like, I've been doing this for 3 years and even I don't understand what they're talking about. So I wanted to kind of make it super simple, super accessible, and just really a conversation between you and me versus just somebody throwing out a bunch of information without laying the foundations for what they're talking about. Another reason that I wanted to get into talking about milk, raw milk, pasteurization, kind of the reason we go into the small shepherding dairy aspect, is that there is a real crisis right now in the US specifically about milk. I mean, everywhere you hear it's dairy free, here's all the diets you have that can cut it out, and don't feed them this, don't feed them this, it'll destroy your body. It's bad for you, cheese, dairy, all that stuff, it's horrible for you, you shouldn't eat it at all. And if you do eat it, don't ever eat raw because it's horrible and you'll die. And there's a lot of misconceptions out there. I don't really want to sway someone one way or the other. I personally don't care if you decide to go raw milk or pasteurized. We go raw for our own personal reasons that I will get into in a later video. But I don't want the conversation to be accusatory, bad-mouthing, or just saying that whatever choice you make is wrong. I want a place where people can get the information that they can make an educated choice on whether they want to go raw or pasteurized, and that they aren't criticized or looked down on for choosing one way or the other. I'm all about putting on your big girl pants and your big boy pants and making a decision. You are an adult. I think a lot of times people forget this. You are an adult. You can make your own decisions. I am not here to sway you one way or the other. I am here to provide information and to help you make the most educated, well-rounded decision for you as a person, but also for you as a family. I want to start a more positive and less accusatory conversation when it comes to milk, whether it's raw or pasteurized or just milk in general. Whenever I do a search in anything for milk, there's the first 10 plus things you find on there is dairy is horrible for you, it's going to kill you, and you shouldn't eat it ever. And I want to make sure that there's also some positive things about milk out there, and I want to be one of those voices. Number 4 is sort of an attachment to 3. It's really getting into the numbers and the reasoning between why raw milk was no longer passable and you had to pasteurize, and why people are kind of getting reintroduced to raw milk again. I want to explain the differences between raw and pasteurized milk. I personally have researched, due to some health issues, I've had to go really deep dive into milk itself, but also raw versus pasteurized, and I want to share that information so that other people have it instead of getting bombarded with all the negative stuff. Because yes, here on our farm, we provide raw milk to the public. In Tennessee, there are two ways you can provide it. It's herd shares and through what's labeled pet food. So our philosophy is we sell it as raw milk as pet food, so it is legally acceptable. But as a family, we drink raw milk. And for us, it really doesn't have anything to do with benefits versus bacteria that's being killed during pasteurization. Like, for the most part, the reason we go raw milk is because I'm the one milking. I know where it's coming from. I know it's clean because we have our milk tested. And I am just a busy mom, and I don't have the time to sit there and pasteurize gallons of milk at a time. It's not hard, but it is time consuming. So as someone who runs a dairy and is milking mornings and afternoons, Monday through Sunday, I just don't have the time to sit there and watch milk heat up and then cool down. And it's just, I've got better things to do than to pasteurize the milk, and it's clean milk, so that's why we drink it. But whatever your beliefs are on raw milk or pasteurized, there's a lot of misunderstandings that I hope to clear up, to share our story in a little bit more depth, and to explain why we choose to drink raw milk, and to maybe help others out there who struggle with dairy like I did and had to kind of go to sheep's milk as it was the only dairy that my stomach could handle. And the number 5 reason is to shout out from the rooftops how amazing sheep are. As a city kid born and raised, I was like, animals are cool, whatever. But when you really get into all the things that sheep, the plural of sheep is sheep provide to the community without you even really realizing it, it's baffling. I mean, there's wool, which is underappreciated and undervalued. It is a really amazing textile to work with and to wear, and no one uses it anymore, which is a real shame. But it was a huge source of clothing for years, decades, generations, thousands of years. And that came from the byproduct of having sheep. As I said previously, that sheep's milk is the only milk that I personally can handle, so it's an extremely sensitive milk, and it's super sweet. I love the taste of sheep's milk. I love it better than cow's milk. And sheep's milk makes amazing cheeses, and not just cheeses. We've made caramel, we've made ice cream, we've made a lot with our sheep's milk, and I personally think it is the highest quality dairy products out there, but I'm a little biased. And another thing that sheep have that a lot of people don't realize is lanolin. Lanolin is the oils that is in their wool that helps them stay cool, but also helps them not get wet. And lanolin is used in a lot of cosmetics for anything that helps with moisturization and dry skin. It helps with just making sure that your face doesn't dry out with the makeup that's used. I personally use lanolin now as lip gloss. I apply it usually once a day, and my lips are completely moisturized for the entire day. Unlike the kind of other stuff that I've used before, I'm constantly having to apply it because it's not moisturizing enough, whereas the lanolin from the lip balm I'm using is like a one and done. I use it for our kids too because it's natural. So anything that, as you get it on your mouth and, you kind of swallow it, it's natural, it's not going to hurt you. Lanolin is also what a lot of new moms will use on their breasts. It helps with the cracky, dry skin that comes from breastfeeding. So a lot of moms will use lanolin to heal themselves. And it's a really great moisturizer for skin that's really dry and cracked. I love my meat. We are meat eaters in this house, and lamb meat is one of the best meat out there. The rest of the world knows how great sheep are. Shout out to Europe and Australia for their gigantic Bel Air sized milking setups. I've seen some of them and they are just amazing. They're going through hundreds, if not thousands, of sheep sometimes daily on those farms, and it is just amazing to watch. And so they know what's up. Let's get on the sheep bandwagon, America. And reason number 6, which is kind of a bonus reason, is that I wanted to create a community that focused on shepherds and dairy farmers, specifically small dairy farmers. Farming is kind of a lonely job. I mean, I know we're out there a lot with a lot of animals. I think we capped off this year at about 60, but a lot of times I'm out there doing it by myself. You know, I got small kids. They're not quite at the age where they can help. They're helping makes it'll take a lot longer and a lot more work because they shift things that don't need to be shifted. And I do have help with my husband on the weekends, but his job is mostly to manhandle the rams. For me, a lot of times I'm out there by myself. As farmers, we work long hours. We're tired. A lot of the times during the high of our season, you know, we see our friends going out to Bible studies and girl nights, and we just look at that and go, oh, I am too tired to even contemplate going out. In a way, reason number 6 is kind of a selfish reason. I want to be able to connect more with my fellow shepherds and my fellow dairy farmers. I want to build a circle of shepherds and dairy farmers that can really help and support each other in times where it gets really hard. I want to get to know you, welcome you to our dairy, kind of show you around and kind of bring you along with what we do, and share the ups and downs of life and farming. It is hard, and I think a lot of us just need a little bit of that connection. And for farmers, it's really hard for us to connect with others who don't farm because they don't understand a lot of what we have to deal with on a daily basis. And so those are the reasons that I decided to start this channel. This is the first of, I hope, a lot of videos where we get to really dive deep into shepherding, milking, dairy farming, sheep in general. Our first season will focus on lambing and prep. As it's January, February, this is a time on our farm where we are getting ready for lambs to drop. We'll be focusing on helping you new guys get your setup figured out, what you need to stock up on, what to expect your first year of lambing, because believe you me, it is never anything like you expect it to be. We're also going to talk a little bit about what to do when things go wrong, because a lot of times what you see on Instagram and all the social media is when everything's perfect and the little lamb sitting in your arms and it's beautiful. But we're also going to kind of deep dive into what happens when things go wrong and kind of some of the steps you can take during those kind of panicky hours. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell to make sure that you don't miss the next time we post a video. You can follow us on social media at Ewe and Me Creamery. That's EWE, Ewe and Me Creamery. On Instagram and Facebook, we post a lot of pictures from the farm and of our sheep and some of the products that we've made. If you simply cannot wait for some of that lambing information, I would highly recommend you guys check out the playlist called Everyday Farmers Conference. That is an online conference that I held in 2020 when I interviewed a bunch of my farmer friends and asked some of those beginner level questions that I, as a beginner, was asking. And I videoed my friends as I asked them, and I put it online so that people could watch. The quality isn't great, but the content is amazing. So if you really, really are in a bind, or you just want to soak up as much lambing stuff as possible right this second, I suggest heading on over there. You can either find it in the description box below, or I will tag it in the video. Thanks for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!